Call this meeting to order. Welcoming remarks. We welcome you to today's budget review. This meeting is a wrap-up budget review session. If you wish to address the council, a green card should be filled out and given it to Council Clerk, Ms. Veronica L. Williams, seated to my left. I'm requesting that the first row to my left be used for media only and the right side of the auditorium be reserved for budget and finance staff. I'm also requesting anyone who approaches the podium, please state their name and title for the official record. Lastly, food and drinks are not allowed in the auditorium, and all cell phones and electronic devices shall be silenced from this point forward. This meeting is to address matters related only to the proposed budget document. Please, we request that all other matters specific to the city, parish, government business be directed to the administration and that it not be addressed at this public forum. The budget document has been posted to the website at www.lafayette.la.gov. Under finance, public comment will be called near the end of each day's wrap-up reviews. All city council members are reminded that today the goal is to eliminate as many wrap-up items as possible. With that being said, the main possible action a council member can propose is one of the following. Number one, a general amendment, when the entire council agrees on a proposed amendment. Two, separate amendment, when a council member objects to a budget change. This meeting today is for wrap-up on the proposed 2021-2022 budget. The order of business shall be as followed. Any new items from Finance Administration, we will review general amendments, separate amendments, wrap-up items, and therefore will ask council members for their amendments, review of general amendments, review of separate amendments, review of wrap-up items, and any new items from council members. As City Budget Chair, I'll be presiding officer. For joint meetings, I'll alternate with Parish Budget Chairman Kevin Knockan on presiding. Any council announcements related to the budget? Not seeing any. Moving on to budget wrap-up. Any housekeeping items, Lori?
Yes,
all right. I'm sorry, Lori, before you get started, Councilman Lazar had buzzed in.
I'll defer to Lori.
Okay, sure.
I'll come back.
Yes, sir. And Lori, the floor is yours.
Sure. Good afternoon. I'll go over the additional amendments for consideration. I believe as the chairwoman goes through her list of items, if you have something new that you want to talk about, that she has room for that towards the end of the agenda. Mm-hmm. But sticking with the agenda right now, we'll look at this sheet of paper here. It's scheduled. It's titled Additional Amendments for Consideration During the Wrap-Up Meeting. And we have several items on here. I'll point out the ones that are city only. It starts with number 3, that is for city only. This is to adjust the revenue received for the school resource officers. So this is adjusting the revenues. We have 2 increases and 1 decrease, but we're asking you to approve this as a general amendment, and it's based on updated calculations.
Can I get someone to offer this? I have Councilwoman Cook offering that as a general amendment. Do I have any objections? Not seeing any. Moves forward as a general amendment.
The next item for city-only consideration is number 5. This was previously a separate amendment, Ms. Abair. I believe that it was a separate amendment by Mr. Knockan titled numbered separate amendment number 3. So we did get some dollar amounts from that from LUS. This is to budget the new accounts necessary for the LUS backflow monitoring, and we want to budget the revenues and expenses for that at $500,000. So we're asking for you to consider that as a general amendment. If you don't want a general, you can, offer it. We're asking you at least offer it as a separate for consideration.
I plan to remove my separate amendment anyway, so this can, if anybody wants to offer this up as a general.
I will.
Councilman Andy Knockan will offer this up as a general amendment. Do I have any objections to that? Not hearing any. Moves forward as a general amendment.
Thank you. Amendment number 6, you may recall our discussion at the beginning of the budget process where we talked about software as a service that was now being budgeted under city capital outlay. After discussion with the auditors, it is still budgeted in the same fund, but we need to change the account number because it will not be capitalized. So we need to change the account number from the 89,000 series to the 71,000 series.
Can I
So
get
we're
someone-
asking to change that account number.
Does anyone want to offer that up as a general amendment? Councilman Nakhan is offering that as a general amendment. Do I have any objections? Not seeing any objection, moving forward as a general amendment.
Item number 7, in the past, we had budgeted for the Acadiana Crime Lab as a one-time fixed payment of $250,000. That number was cut in the budget process, maybe last year and again this year, but from what I understand, there is some ongoing conversations and some work that needs to be done with the crime lab, but in the meantime, we do need to increase that budgeting back to the previous level of funding, so that would be going back to the original $250,000 that we had budgeted a year or so ago. So we're asking to fix that payment for next year's budget to $250,000.
Can I get this offer? I have Councilman Nakhan offering this as a general amendment. Do I have any objections? Not hearing any, it moves forward as a general amendment.
Amendment number 8 is a request from Judge Saloom. He's requesting to adjust the salaries of some of his employees, and because his employees are on our manning table, it's a part of our budget process, and any changes in the manning table has to be approved by you. It does result, at the end of the day, as an increase in funding from the city general fund of $329. So for the whole year, he's adjusting several people's salaries, and it will end up in an increase to the city general fund of $329. That's being requested by the judge, and I do believe he's here to talk about it if you have any questions.
Can I get someone to offer this as a general amendment? I have Councilwoman Cook offering that as a general amendment. Do I have any objections? Not seeing any, it moves forward as a general amendment.
That is the last amendment that we have so far, hopefully. That's it.
Okay. All right, that's general amendments. That's housekeeping items. I'm sorry, moving on to general amendments. Next, we will address those. Are there any requests to pull any of your Councilman Lazar, do you have the floor? General amendments is what we're on.
I was just going to ask
Okay, go ahead.
a question. Lori, on item number 7, the crime lab,
Yes, sir.
how is that a...
Can you lower your microphone, please? And thank you.
I had rolled up.
All
Sorry
good.
about that, Madam Chair. Lori, the funding for the crime lab, what is our proportionate share based on?
I'm not sure if legal would want to step in and provide some more information, but the way it's designed is that they get a portion of various court fines and fees that are collected, but there is a disconnect maybe with the city court and our part of funding the crime lab. I believe all the other courts in the district that serves the crime lab funds their portion through these fees and fines. I'm not sure if please correct me if I'm wrong, but the city of Lafayette has not done that. So in order to fill the gap, we're asking to go back to what we paid before, and in the meantime, I do think we need to iron this out in order that the city of Lafayette funds the crime lab the same way every other court in the district does. That's not being done right now. Is that worded?
Yes.
Not really.
So basically, the statute provides that it is fees added on to various charges.
I know.
City court would like to come to the council and amend that. In the past, there was a provision put in by a previous CAO with a flat fee of $250,000. And I think the city was probably getting the better end of the deal then. Last year it was cut in half to $125, and basically Iberia Parish District Attorney is about to sue the city of Lafayette for not contributing according to statute. So this was a compromise put in. Our district attorney, Don Landry, is in favor of it. So we're going to put this in, and with the realignment of city court, there may be some adjustments in fees attached to fines that have to come before the council for approval. So that's basically, it's a compromise to keep us from getting sued.
And I guess that's what kind of threw me off, because I know how it's normally funded. So that answers my question. That's good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you both. All right. We were still on general amendments. Go ahead, Lori. You were still going forward.
Well, we were finished the housekeeping amendments, and
Yep.
now moving on to the general amendments. That's the schedule
Okay.
here prepared by the council with the yellow line at the top and the 3 different columns.
Okay, moving on to general amendments, wrap-up list, items 12 through 20. Do we have any changes, council members, 12 through 20? Because those are all city only. Not seeing any. Moving on to separate amendments. Refer to the wrap-up list, city-only separate amendment 1. I will remove my objection.
Yeah, to item number 3, and that one is now the new general amendment number 5.
Yep. And that's
That-
all for city separate amendments. Moving on to wrap-up items. Council members, please see your amendment wrap-up item at a glance handout for previously pulled.
I think the only outstanding one, all wrap-up items city-related have been pulled except for item number 4. That's the only outstanding item. And item number 4 is city court will provide budget changes to applicable line items. And Judge Saloom has signed a court to speak to this item.
Come
And
on
we
up.
did have a list of wrap-up items. There were a couple of things for city court on there, but the administration's not ready to recommend moving forward on any of the other amendments. I will tell you that on the parish side, we're already prepared to make adjustments in November for things not related to city court, but we know there are some things that need to be ironed out. So as we progress with city court, once we're ready, we would be prepared to, we wouldn't have any objections to coming forth with an amendment later on after we get through this process.
Again, good afternoon. Again, Douglas Sloan, Chief Judge, Lafayette City Court. Before I get on that, Mr. Lazar, just to respond, Mr. Logan was correct, and this is something that was done by prior administrations with the crime lab. The city court is kind of the collector, not the setter. And Mr. Logan, I believe, is working with the crime lab to figure out what they want to present to the council, who will then set the amount that the court collects. As of right now, we're working under the old agreement. I believe that's correct. And we're just kind of on standby until the council makes the decision, and then we implement the new numbers. The city court doesn't have a vote in it. We're just a collector. As Ms. Toops was saying, and first I appreciate the council's and agreement to set this aside for wrap-up today. We're still in discussions with the administration. This is a change of a lot of things, and speaking to Ms. Toops this morning, it was very clear that my request is creating a bunch of changes in line items and such that it's just not ready to be presented to the council today in a fashion that it should be. With the administration's permission, I have asked that Ms. Toops assist the court in creating in advance the line items. I have suggested to you that new line items need to be created, and in doing this, we've learned that the court's accounting categories don't really mesh into the line items of the city, and that's just not the way it should be. And so if I can have Ms. Toops can be given permission by administration to work with the court to work on those line items, then when we come back with an amendment for the things that we've requested that were not approved by the mayor, that at least we can put apples and apples together rather than apples and oranges. And so what I'm asking is that, as Ms. Toops has indicated, if it's possible to, I don't know if the recommended budget was approved. Has that already been done? I don't think it has. I think we deferred the whole budget. So if that was the case, we're just asking that the council approve the budget as recommended by administration, with an understanding that we'll continue working with the administration and finance department if they have permission, so that we can get those line items up, and then I could represent to you the numbers, or if we agree on numbers, that'd be even better. But we can at least have a package for you that will outline all the things we're requesting, much more consistent with the line items now before you. Happy to answer any questions.
Well, Councilman Nakhan, this was your wrap-up request. Do you have
Yeah, I'd just like to move forward with their suggestion that we definitely approve the recommended budget by administration and move forward with possible referrals later back in November when we come forward with more information.
I believe we're going to shoot for sometime in October. I believe, Ms. Toops.
October's fine. Whatever's good with the court, we'll be happy to address it at that time when it comes to with Ms. Toops.
Due to some of the requests, they need to be addressed prior to the new budget year. But we're going to try to get that organized for you. And
we had left this open-ended just to accommodate what y'all were going through, and we're going to go ahead and at least approve a budget. We've got to get something moving
yes,
forward.
sir, definitely.
And then we can address the issues as they present themselves. We'll get more information. I'll be fine.
And this
Just
is,
to
oh,
be
I'm sorry.
clear with the judge, is that we can't amend the budget until the fiscal year begins, but certainly if an amendment is agreed upon with the administration, we could introduce it at the last meeting in October and have it before the council at the first meeting in November.
Madam Chair,
Yeah,
that'd be fine.
and that'll be fine.
I'm
As
on
long as we're
board with
still
that.
in the
Okay.
process, that's all the court's asking.
all right,
The devil's in the
So,
details, right?
I guess I need to
That's
withdraw my
why
wrap
I
up.
turned to you.
Yeah, you just need to pull your wrap-up.
But just do nothing. We'll move forward with
Yeah.
the budget.
Yes,
That'll be
All right.
fine.
Perfect. Thank you, Judge. Appreciate it.
thank you all.
Have a good one.
Yes, y'all too.
All right. And so that was the only wrap-up item?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Finally, I recognize council members who wish to propose any new amendments. I'd like to propose $200,000 for traffic calming to be pulled from the city general fund. And what this is, council members, is, I know for me, I know we all have traffic calming issues, and I know we have speed bumps and other line allocations, but for me, what I'm running into is I've got a lot of major corridors in my district that people utilize to cut through to avoid Johnson, Ambassador, College Saloon, Camellia, so they're cutting through neighborhoods, and these certain streets don't qualify for speed bumps. So something that I'm working with administration on is alternatives to that, whether it's the radars that you see on West Bayou that flash the speed that you're actually going, whatever that may be, by the advice of Warren Abity and the engineers in traffic, and working with the administration on that. So I wanted to add a line item for that funding for city general fund, traffic calming, $200,000.
Ms. Abier, I feel I'd be remiss in my duties if I didn't bring this to your attention. In the past few months, we have taken tens of millions. For the first time in history, we had a huge surplus in the city general fund, and we took tens of millions and put it towards city drainage. The city general fund is now at a point to where I don't recommend that you lower it anymore. Just, I have a feeling Mr. Lazard's going to come up with this in a few minutes, because he asked me earlier before the meeting, is what are we going to do if sales tax projections don't pan out. Well, we have fund balance in the city general fund that will sustain us next year if sales tax projections fall. But by using city general funds as additional capital, I just can't recommend it. But I can recommend that if that's a priority, that we look at Fund 401 and find something else to cut for the, you decide what the priority is. There's funding there. I just can't recommend that you take it from the city general fund. We were in a position where we had that luxury, but we chose drainage as a priority a few months ago by taking that money. So I just respectfully request that you consider taking that from Fund 401 and reprioritizing some money there.
Sure.
And thank you for that. We did have this discussion, as, just very shortly before we had this meeting, and if it would be agreeable, and we also knew that you would say that, Lori, so thank you very much. Protecting the finances, what we might do is not having the time to go back and look at 401 projects. Would it be agreeable that we do go back and look at a place where we could carve out that $200,000 specifically for this traffic calming program? We'll have to build a program around a prioritization style of programming, but maybe we can bring up the finalization. If everyone's agreeable on the amount, then we can identify that specific line item where to carve it out from, whether it be from capital, another project, or wherever. Would that be okay with everyone?
And I can identify tonight, because you cut this earlier, $60,000. If you wanted, in Fund 401, we had $60,000 that was for parish zoning. We corrected that. So Fund 401 does have $60,000 if you wanted to put that towards traffic calming and not use the city general fund to get started.
I'm happy to start with the
I'll throw that out
60,000.
there.
Yeah, I'm sorry to start with that, but I'd like to eventually end up with the 200,000. So let's, between now and the adoption, identify the additional 200,000. Because yes, drainage is absolutely a priority, but we all ran on keeping our community safe, roads, and that is all included. So, and I know I'm not the only one with speeding issues in my district. So, and sometimes speed lumps, bumps, or humps are not available to us. So that is my amendment. I'm bringing it as a general amendment. Do I have any objections to that?
Well, Liz, one more thing. You just said 200,000 for traffic calming, and you said from the city, originally from the city general fund.
That's right.
But do you want to say District 3, or is that for citywide?
No, we'll do it citywide.
Citywide,
Feeling
okay,
generous.
thank you.
Now, is it going through out of the general fund, or are you going to take it from the Fund 401?
I'm taking that 60,000 to get us started, but then I plan on working with the administration
Okay,
to
so
identify the additional
amendment
revenue.
is for 60,000 out of Fund 401.
Yes,
Okay,
correct.
all right.
That's right.
And 140
right.
remaining
Are you taking the
mentioned
140 from the city general
for
fund?
now.
Or are
For
you
now,
going to?
until we identify the rest from the capital like we discussed. the
So you
401.
are reducing the city general fund balance?
For now. But I soon be coming to you for a change before final.
If we can get it done before final, because, that is that final budget pro forma that we use when we go to the rating agencies.
Yep, promise you.
It's coming out of the general fund?
140 will be.
140 will, okay.
Until I identify it, but I'm confident I can identify it before, but this is just as a placeholder for now.
Should I go ahead and put forth an objection just to be safe?
No?
Oh, you're the elected official, so I'm going to leave that
I
to,
mean, you don't
I'm
have
going to leave
to.
that to you.
You don't have to,
I
but
would think I need to put forth an objection just to be safe, to make sure we can identify that 140,000 for other things, from
Okay.
other things.
it's going to be offered as a separate amendment moving forward. All right, and that's all I have. Did anyone else have, lots of
Liz,
these.
did you have another one for overlay projects?
No, ma'am, this is going to be it for now.
That's it for now?
Yeah, thank you. Councilman Lazard, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And it's kind of a perfect segue just for some comments and observations that I want to make pertaining to the upcoming budget. And it's a concern that I have about the revenue projections. On average, prior to last year, we had a growth rate of about 2%, give or take, on average, for about the 7 or 8 years preceding last year. Last year was a banner year, obviously, with the lot of emergency funding we received. We benefited tremendously from the hurricanes and Lake Charles region. Sales tax revenues skyrocketed primarily from the purchase of building materials, I assume, and some other issues. And look, I'm not the expert by no means, but it just deeply concerns me that we might find ourselves in a mid-year situation where we're going to have to make some substantial cuts if these projections don't bear out. Just an observation, and in terms of, we are proposing the largest capital works budget, if you will, in the history of the city of Lafayette, if I'm not mistaken. I stand corrected if I am. But that's what it appears to me based on my limited accounting knowledge. Concerns me. The other thing is we're proposing a lot of new capital works projects, and we still have, I don't know how many millions on the books in projects that have been there for various periods of time that we have not moved on. So I don't know, and I guess it's a request that I'm making at this point, Lori, that, and this just struck me last night actually when I was going through this stuff, a list of all of the projects, capital projects that are currently on the books that have been previously funded, that are, I'm looking for my notes, excuse me, that are on the books, right? How much money is tied up in those projects? Because that may very well free up some money to do some things, I don't know. So status of projects already on the books, the amount funded, and I don't expect you to do this today, the amount funded, the amount spent, how long those things have been on the books, and what's the plan moving forward on those respective projects.
And let me provide you some additional information. You may alter your request based on this.
Okay.
The charter allows us to let a project only live 3 years if no money and nothing has been done on the project. So if you budget a project and it sits there for 3 years, nobody's done any engineering, nobody's done any right-of-way purchases or any of that stuff, and the money's just sitting there, at the end of 3 years, it lapses, it goes away, and that money is re-put into the budgetary process. So every year, and through the budgetary process, you're getting before you how we plan on spending any money that would have lapsed in that budget process. Now, that's not a cure-all, because there are some projects, you'll see projects on the books in LUS going back to 2012. And maybe that's something that's just moving really slow. But, so you will see those. I'm not gonna, make you think they don't exist. They do exist, but projects are reviewed annually. And the department, or none of us, has any choice. If nothing has been spent on that project, it lapses. The charter requires that, and there is no way that we can extend the life of that just because we think it's a good project. We have to come back to you and ask you to rebudget it. So your city guys now, not parish guys, but the one thing that comes to mind is the darn sewer grinder for the jail. We had to keep coming back to the council over and over for that, because after 3 years, it would lapse, and then we'd have to rebudget it. So you will see those projects lapse like that. I don't know that this is the largest capital budget. It might be the largest projected 5-year spending,
Yeah, and that's
but
why
you're
I said
not
it's
approving any of that 5-year spending. The only thing you're approving is in the projected column, and I don't think that that is really larger than anything that we had before. If anything, it's because of increased sales tax collections, and so you had that increased money available to spend.
And that's why I say I stand corrected. Not a problem. So no capital projects stay on the book over 3 years, is what you're saying?
Stale over 3 years. If they're spending a little bit on it, let's say they did some engineering and now they have to do some rights-of-ways, and that takes 5 years, but if it sits there, Kearney runs some sort of query, and if that account has been debited, meaning some money was spent from that account, if that account has had activity, then it stays alive. If it's had no activity, it's lapsed, it's gone. And, you know, the department will have to come back to you and ask for you to reinstate it. We don't have a choice.
So as long as there's some kind of activity, it can continue indefinitely, as long as there's some activity.
Right, and then there's projects, you know, that seem not to be moving. We may question, maybe, you know, some straggling amounts of money. Most of the time, the departments will come back to you because they know the project's over, there's money left in there. But certainly, that being said, you do have a list of all the capital projects in the, on the tabs for 5-year capital outlay, starting on page 261. I can tell you right now, Laura goes through this in great detail. Anything that's not considered normal capital, trucks, equipment, you know, stuff like that, any project-related stuff is listed here on these pages in this section. So you do have that. If you want a more granular list, I think this is pretty granular, but is there something more detailed that they could get, or this is pretty much it? I think we balance this every year when we give it to you so you can see what's there. So you'll see, for example, I'm on page 289. And I'm just looking through on page 289, number 122. Watch me pick some project that's controversial. Number 122, park elevator modernization. There's $1 million budgeted, and there was $247 left. So that tells you what is sitting out there and what's left.
And I can chime in here just for a moment while give Lori a moment to take a sip of water. We do also, councilmen, sit down, the Public Works Director, Drainage, the major capital guys do sit down and review the list of existing projects and make the determination as to whether or not, if it's a stale project, do we need to go ahead and release that funding? Are there permitting issues, wetland permitting issues as an example, or are there design and engineering issues, or has there been new information provided to us that that project is no longer needed? So they do annually go through that list and work to release those and make those in their own budget requests as well. So they go through those too. So in the event that Kearney's query gave you a little bit of heartburn, they do have an actual multiple sets of eyeballs on it as well.
And years ago, we had bond projects. And it just, when I came here, I just didn't understand it. We had these bond projects that sat out there for years and years and years, and we were paying interest and we were paying debt service on these bond projects. But now we've cleaned all that up, and even a bond project, if they don't move on it in 3 years, it goes away and they have to come back to you to rebudget it. So it's to keep that moving so that money just doesn't sit there.
Okay. That clarifies that for me, and I wasn't aware of the 3-year limitation. I'll admit that. I wasn't aware of that, because I guess there are some things that, but then you qualify it by saying, as long as there's some activity, it can last forever. And I guess that's what caught my attention, some of the things I see in here that I know that I've heard about that were funded years ago that are still on here. So there's still, so as long as there's some minimal amount of activity, it can last indefinitely.
Yeah,
It's stay on the books indefinitely.
And you may want to pick out a couple of projects that you want to ask about. You know, if you see a project on here worth $100,000 budgeted and they have a remaining balance of $99,000 and you're looking for money, that might be the project you want to ask about. But we're kind of giving it all to you in this section of the budget book.
Okay. I may very well be doing just that.
Uh-oh.
Thank you. I'm good, Madam Chair.
Thank you, sir, appreciate it. Councilman Lewis, you have the floor.
Thank you. I'd like to make an amendment for some signage for, and I think I can take it from maybe park,
We can't hear you, I'm sorry, you'll
I'm
need to.
sorry, park improvement citywide. Laura, someone can you explain to me the funding for park improvement citywide? If maybe I can use $16,000 for some signage, and maybe Mr. Hollis might want to talk on that.
Could you give us a page number?
Yes, sure can. Page number 260, 169, item number 169. There's a balance in there of $150,000.
Hang on a second, let me catch up with you.
I'm not that fast.
Page 260?
290.
Page 290?
Toward the bottom, 169. Park improvements citywide.
That is cash, pay-as-you-go, city capital, yes, sir. We are requesting $150,000 additional dollars, so you're looking to reduce that?
Yes,
By how much?
16,000.
16,000? And you want to put 16,000 where?
For signage, there's some sign Mr. Hollis can talk toward it.
Is that for signage
For, Mr. Hollis is right
for
on the side of you.
parks?
Yes, renaming,
Okay, so we want to rename it.
yeah.
You got a name, Mr. Hollis?
Hollis Conway, Director of Park. So from what I understand, in 2019, there was a resolution passed, recommended by the commission to name 3 parks, is it Merlin, Leger, and 2 other people, and the signs were $16,000, and I think it was brought back up at the commission and brought to Mr. Lewis to see if they can move forward with that project.
So what's the name of the project?
It's
City park signage?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's signs in honor of 3 people who are
Okay.
important to Parks and Recreation.
So we would like to reduce number 169, park improvements citywide, by $16,000 and add a line item
Yes.
for city park signage?
Yes.
Can it not just, this is my question, Councilman Lewis, can that just not be done under park improvements? Why do we need to move the funding?
Sidra, what do you think?
Well, that's the question I was
Yeah,
asking.
oh, that was your question, okay.
Yeah,
Hold
that's the
on.
question I was
You're
asking
live, yeah.
with this about.
I would think that it would be considered an improvement if
Yeah.
we're installing a sign dedicating, the naming of a park. I would think that would be fine.
Yeah, that's why I was bringing it up. That would be
Okay.
the perfect question, yeah.
So it's not necessary to make a new line item then, it sounds like.
No, I think
Yeah. should be
good.
okay with that.
Okay,
Spend the money on it.
all right, perfect.
Yeah,
Then we're
okay.
not making a new line item, that's just a request that he's making to
Right.
Hollis and the team to do.
Exactly.
Perfect, thank you.
Then I'm not finished.
Oh, you're not finished?
Yeah.
Oh, all right, next.
Okay, there is another amendment I would like to make for upgrade at the Clifton Chenier Center. That's $20,000. And I'm thinking about maybe from the general fund, but before the general fund, I know Councilwoman Liz Hebert was talking about moving some money from the general fund, but then I have an issue with the Cajun Dome. There's $600,000 that we are using, and I remember the lady came and speak to us a couple of weeks ago, maybe last week, that was $600,000, but she also mentioned that there was a lot of money that she received from the state. Can anyone give me an idea how much money was given from the state? I can't remember how many thousands of dollars.
It was in the millions. I'm not sure if it was 6 or 7.
$7.5 million. So that's $600,000. I'd like to reduce that and put that into the general fund from not the $7 million, $600,000 that we had allocated last week, and maybe we can move that into the general fund to release some money for the Clifton Chenier upgrade, and with Ms. Hebert talking about speed bumps and lumps.
Mayor?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Lori, 100,000 comes from 401, 500,000 comes from 101. If maybe a request would be to address the 401 money,
Okay.
since you're not
Sure.
going above
Sure.
100. That'd be my recommendation. Now, I'll defer to the council's vote on that, but, maybe that might help on the amendment.
So clarify that one more time, how much you said?
How much do you want to bring?
Well, we had talked, she had mentioned about $600,000. I don't know where that $600,000.
But what are you
I
wanting?
think it was an additional $100,000, correct?
No, that's correct. So it's 5 and 1. So 500 comes from 101, the city general
Okay.
fund. 100 comes from Fund 401, our
Okay, well,
capital.
the $100,000, the 101.
And you want to bring that to,
So the 401 is capital money? Is
Right.
it capital you
Correct.
want?
Right.
that's what I'm asking. So,
Yes.
but what is it that you want to do?
I would like to.
He would like to reduce the entire $600,000, the 100,000 in the capital line
Capital line.
item, or zero it out, and then the 500,000 in the operating 101. So,
You just want to reduce it from 600 to 500? Or do you want to take the 100,000?
I would like to reduce it by 50%.
oh,
Okay.
50%.
Yeah, 50%.
Both of them, capital, the
No, the
100?
100,000 automatically, and the other 500,000, 50%.
50%,
Right.
okay. So did
put
you
it for the
guys get that?
allocation For the speed humps, bumps, whatever you want to call it.
Okay.
And the $20,000 for the upgrade of Clifton Chenier Center.
Okay, let me make sure I follow that. You want to eliminate the capital side, the 401, so we're going to take the Cajun Dome capital that's budgeted in Fund 401 from 100,000 to 0.
Correct.
And so that leaves 100,000 available for whatever.
Correct.
In capital.
Right.
In the city general fund, you want to take the city general fund external agency appropriation of 500 and reduce that to 250,000.
Right.
Okay, and so now you have $100,000 in capital money.
Correct.
You said you wanted to budget something for Clifton Chenier Center.
$20,000.
So we want to add Clifton Chenier Center at $20,000.
Right.
Kearney, I hope you're getting this.
For the audio,
Yeah.
he had gotten a quote on
Yeah.
audio upgrade in the
Okay,
Clifton Chenier
Clifton
Center.
Chenier Center audio upgrade for $20,000.
Correct.
Now, that leaves you a remaining balance of $80,000 available in Fund 401. You could allocate it now, you could leave it in fund balance, or you could put it towards your traffic calming, but there's 80,000 remaining in Fund 401 by reducing that 100 for the Cajun Dome.
Well, we could just wait to see what the other council members would like to do with the 80,000 for the calming devices or speed hump bumps, whatever.
Okay, so he's made forth that. I think I can repeat it for you if you would
Sure.
like, or if you think you got it, do y'all want to?
I object.
Okay. So this would be a separate amendment?
Right.
So I guess my question again is you're wanting to essentially almost defund one of the largest economic drivers in Lafayette that produces a lot of tax revenue, brings customers to restaurants, to hotels, business to Lafayette, to help pay for park improvements, which we already have a line item for?
No, we don't. No,
We have,
continue.
we,
No, continue.
we have funding
Continue.
for park improvements. We already have a park improvement line item. We can get into a discussion later, but
Yeah.
I object to that.
Okay.
All right, any others? Anything else, Councilman Lewis?
No, that's it.
All right. Councilwoman Cook, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chairman. First, I have a question about the projects that we were talking about, Lori, the past projects or the ones that are still, not the proposed ones. In a current year, how many of those, like, how many projects can we get done? Like, we have several on the books, some of them, like you said, been sitting there for a while. Some that are, if I look at my report, some have no money, no activity at all. And I guess they're probably working within the 3-year span to where they get it done. What is the average number, and I'm just curious, number of projects that the city, because we have a lot of backlog in that particular, in the projects, maybe almost 70-something million dollars. So how many in a year can we get done? Do we have a trend that we do? We don't really know. I guess it depends.
Now, all the projects take different formats. One project, you can need lots of right-of-ways. You could have a lot of issues come up during construction. There's always a problem when you start construction of a major project where there's things under the ground that you don't know that you're gonna come up when you start digging to lay that road. So I don't know that even the Public Works Department could even answer that question because it'll vary so much based on the type of project.
And I'd imagine they would have some kind of tracking of that, just even projects are all different, but some kind of tracking of that. And I understand all those things come up, right? You go into a project and you might have to go left and right before you go forward with some things that you find out. So I was just curious how, if we have enough, I guess, manpower, or do we contract enough, or to get these projects done? Because, yeah, anyway, that was just my concern. Is there somebody wants to say something?
And they may have something based on the type of, buildings take this long, roads take this long. I don't know.
Yeah, okay, that was kind of a sidebar. Actually, I have a couple of amendments that I do want to present. One of them, and I think the council, you all got a copy of this. It's number 1, and if you look to your first sheet on there where it says number 1, there's actually a grid with all the different items. And I don't know, Lori, did you get?
Show me what it looks like.
It's going to look like this. It's going to have all that on there.
No, I don't believe I have that.
I think she has one for you. It starts on page 305 in the book, if anybody wants to follow along in the book. It's related to the IT department capital. And I get, please correct me if I'm wrong, because again, this is difficult at times for me as well.
That's it.
But are we paying, is the city, as far as I can tell, is paying 100% of this?
So we just got 7 copies.
And I guess in looking at, allocation formulas, I would like to see that each one of these, like on page 305, the IT capital, all the way down from the enterprise system to infrastructure, IT plan, hardware, software, all of these things all the way down to actually, not the last 2, because we actually got rid of the very last one on that list, the zoning for community development. You corrected that to where it's not the city, that's parish zoning. But everything all the way down that list until we get to 309 is funded solely by the city. So I'd like to propose an amendment to basically where we use the allocation formulas that we have for these particular, for this department. And we basically, the city is going to put in their share for the allocation, and we are going to remove the parish's share from this agenda. And assume that we're going to cause a commotion, I know, but would like to see the parish put in their portion for these particular items.
So I don't follow you at all. Could you repeat that?
Okay. All right. Are you on page 305?
I am on page 305.
Okay. Basically, we have IT department capital. If you look at basically the grid that I presented with you. Let me ask you this first. Is there a reimbursement? And that may just solve everything. I know we've talked before about reimbursement. It looks like the city is getting 100% of this, covering this, IT. But is this, I know you've said before that there is always some reimbursements, that the parish reimburses some of these things for the allocations. Is there a reimbursement that would happen in this particular item, in these particular items?
So some of the last one, we're looking at SAS costs. We did set up a city parish reimbursement for there. But no, are you
Okay.
asking, does the parish pay anything for me to get a new laptop? No, they don't. The city is paying for me to get a new laptop. And that's not being allocated towards the city parish allocation.
And, I mean, I guess I would ask why, do we not? I'm just curious, because we talk about all the allocations. I guess I'm curious why we decide certain things we don't apply it to, and then some we do.
Well, so what you're doing, and I don't mean to be disrespectful, but you're just you're just picking it to death. You're nickel and diming it. So when you start off the beginning of the year, you take the accounting department's budget, and you allocate it 80% to the city, 20% to the parish. During the year, we never spend all of our budget. But you know what? The parish pays 20% no matter what, because that's what is agreed on in the budget.
Right.
So when you just look at my O&M cost, the parish pays more than its share. But at the end of the day, we know that's okay because the city bought my laptop. So it's okay. When you look at that entity-wide and you're just looking at it from my division and stretching it across the entity-wide as a whole, talk to, the folks in the IS&T department when they have staff turnover. They have salary float for high-paid positions sometimes. The parish is paying their full share of that, and at the end of the day, the city paid less, so the parish ends up paying more than their share. So while I get where you're coming from, at the end of the day, when you look at it and put it when the year's over, and you look at who paid what, I knew you were going there, so I went back and looked. Good. If you wanted to do this, the city general fund owes the parish money, because the parish paid 100% of their allocation each year, every month. But there was always salary float in those departments. There was O&M that they didn't incur. So, but we know we're a consolidated government, and there's a give and take. As long as there's not anything really large that we let go, that would be negligent. If we have a large budget amendment that we bring to you during the year, we bring you the city-parish split, because that's the fair thing to do. But we know that you can't nickel and dime the government. Otherwise, I'll tell you what, the situation you'll get into, we can't have no new computers in the finance department. We can never get a new ERP system. You want new improvements in the financial data you get? It's not going to happen, because we're never going to update anything. Because you can't just go and nickel and dime all that when we're a consolidated government.
When you say we couldn't update anything or get a new computer, because
you're never going to be able to figure out the funding like that. If you're expecting the parish to pay 20% of the accounting department,
okay,
getting over the sinuses. So at the end of the year, now the city's going to have to refund the parish some money that they paid all during the year. And you're never just going to really be able to budget that. So as a consolidated government, there's going to be the give and take, but you have to realize at the end of the day, they're both just pretty much coming out on a level playing field.
and I understand we're consolidated. I guess, is there anywhere ever in the budget book that I can see that transfer? I mean, when you say that they reimburse, so we pay for this, I mean, how do, if I saw that, I guess I wouldn't be asking or nickel and diming. How do we track that? How do we see that?
Well, as the legislative body, you tell us what to do, and then we do it. and then you.
Not working right now, though.
Well, it is working, because you, as the legislative body, hire the auditor. The auditor comes in here and tells you whether it's right or wrong.
I'm not talking about the allocation formulas. I'm talking about how would I find these reimbursements that we speak of, that Parish reimburses the city? Where would I find that in a budget document?
So I guess you're asking for microscopic details, so you can ask for printouts of all the transactions every month. I mean, and you could get printouts of transactions that go on forever, but I don't know that.
What fund does it go into, I guess? If they're reimbursing, where does it go?
Well, I mean, you have a total line, you're not going to see the individual transactions.
Right.
But I have stressed over and over again, for years and years, we should be budgeting by fund. You'd see it if we budgeted by fund. And we should be looking at revenues, and you would see it if we were looking at revenues. So let's go back to city general fund revenues. City general fund, we're looking for revenues by fund. 77. So revenues by fund start on page 77. And you will see at the bottom of 77, all these admin fees, this is the city general fund. So it's an acceptable accounting practice to go in and charge all of these dedicated special revenue funds indirect cost. So while, and we had this conversation earlier during the budget process, at the beginning of the year, we take all these costs and we separate it between the city and the parish, and we allocate it so through the city parish allocation. At the end of the year, we go back and charge all these dedicated funds some amount of money that they pay back the city general fund. So you may recall, I said the city general fund gets over $500,000 from the library. That's a parish library. Under normal circumstances, that $500,000 would be going to the parish general fund. But because the city paid for it, that $500,000 is going to the city general fund. And you can see that right here.
What's the city? Yeah, go ahead, I'm sorry.
You can see that right here on page 77, and you see the account number, and the account number tells you this is for admin fees library fund. Now, we started off this conversation as what is the city general fund getting from the parish general fund, and somebody is going to holler out where I find 78 at the middle of the page. You see the contribution from the parish general fund. So that would be where the parish is paying its share. So you have to add that $4 million along with all of these admin accounts to find what the city general fund is actually being reimbursed.
And that, yeah, that doesn't itemize it, but that's what you're saying, that's the number. Okay.
Right,
Okay,
but
well,
there's individual transactions
right.
that we do all year long that equal this.
Right.
And then you choose an auditor that checks that we're actually doing what you legislate us to do.
And so this money that's reimbursed by the parish is the amount of money we fronted and then getting paid back.
Well, actually, you didn't front it all, because they're paying their allocated portion of my annual budget. As I have salary float, they're still paying it. City general fund, if I have a vacancy, somebody leaves my office and it takes me 6 weeks to fill the job, the parish general fund is paying 20% of that salary for 6 weeks when the city general fund never paid a penny. But that, at the end of the day, we know that the city general fund bought the laptop that employee's using. So it levels out.
What is the employee allocation, though, for LCG employees?
I just said 80-20 because that's what most of us think. I didn't.
I'm thinking that's what it was, yeah.
Yeah, for finance, it's close to that.
Yeah.
So each individual transaction is not going to be made whole, but when you put all the transactions together, it is made whole. The difference is not material.
So in these items on this page that I'm giving you, there is apparently a reimbursement then. Is that where you're kind of going? I mean, basically 100% for the city, but in the allocation formula, there would be a reimbursement to some extent that we're going to find in here?
Let's go back to the page and look. Let me look at it.
Page 305. I'm sorry, I'm really just trying to understand
No,
this.
don't apologize. This is where we're supposed to be discussing this. Don't apologize for that.
It's not easy.
No.
The way you're telling
And,
me?
you know, and I have to tell you, I am a professional. I have studied this. I have gone to school for this. I am a CPA, and it took me a long time to study this and to realize it. I didn't make this system up, and when I came here, I had to make sure I thoroughly understood so I can sit before you and tell you that it was materially correct. And so it took me quite a long time. I spent months and months talking to the cost consultants. While I didn't make the system up, the system works. It gets it's materially correct. One item you might find a difference in one item, but if you want to go back and make every item even, then we're going to have to talk about a much more complex accounting system, and we're going to have to add a lot more administrative staff. So there's got to be a give and take on what level of detail do you want. It can be done. I'm not saying it can't be done. It can be done. We can get a super sophisticated system. We can hire several more people, and we can get there, and it will be perfect. But you got to decide what is the term that the auditors use when they're auditing some of these smaller entities, the cost benefit. Is it worth the cost to get the benefit? And some of you may think it's worth spending all of our capital money just so we know that everything's done right, and we just won't build that road. Well, if that's what we want to do, we can get there. But overall, and the auditors told you, when they presented their audit, the financial statements are materially correct. So,
I don't, dispute that. I guess, in looking at just some of the allocations, we still always talk about that. But, I mean, I don't dispute what the auditor said. But let me go back to what you said, something about what you would love to see the budget by fund.
I would love for you to review the budget by fund. And I got a sample book I'll be happy to send you.
Well, we've talked about that, I think, since I've been on the council. So what do we have to do to make that happen? Because if you feel like that would be easier for people like myself and the general public to be able to understand.
So it starts with scheduling the budget meetings. Schedule the budget meetings by fund and not by department.
Okay. I guess we're past that at this point, but that's something we can consider.
But
Yeah.
I'd love to show you that sample
Yeah,
fund book. Kearney worked real hard on it. It is part, it is part of our software that we purchased a year, whenever the mayor came in and said he wanted us to put open checkbook on the internet. We had to use that software to get that open checkbook, and that same software has allowed us to do the budget book by fund.
So we have software to do it like that.
We did it for the first time this year.
So I can
We
make a
could do it
suggestion.
before, but it
That-
wasn't as easy.
That could just come to the budget committee for discussion before we start talking about before the administration,
Yeah.
everyone starts, or before we start making our schedule for next year. But I guess I do have a question about this one before you move on, Councilwoman Cook, is that I certainly don't want to nickel and dime everything, because the road to perfect, as we all know, but nickel and diming is one thing, but we're saying that the parish would owe $816,000. That's not on Councilwoman Cook's sheet, is what I'm just pulling this number right here, is she's saying they would owe that from city capital dollars. I'm looking for city capital dollars. Councilman Lewis is looking for something. Councilman Lazard's buzzed in, is if we were to follow the allocation table for just this one example, not looking at any other example, that would free up allegedly $816,000 for city capital improvements. That's not, to me, nickel and diming. That's solving some problems right here. So for this specific reason, outside of the parish probably wouldn't be able to afford again, I'm just talking about this number, $816,000. Can you explain to me, outside of nickeling, diming, why we wouldn't do that for this?
Well, first off, her number's not correct.
Well, just a,
Like the $1 million, the largest number here, the 1.1 million, that already is being allocated. That's the software as a service.
Okay, so we've
So
adjusted it
that's
since
already
then.
being allocated. And then we would have to go through every item to see what it is and who's using it. So just using the straight allocation is not correct.
okay. So I'm going to pump the brakes on my question and maybe make a suggestion is you can offer this as a general amendment. Someone can either object or not, and then you can continue to work with Lori on the specifics of this and get a better understanding
Yeah.
or not.
No,
That way, just for
Lori's-
time, let's keep moving.
No, I respect that, and I respect everyone's time. So yes, I would like to offer it as a general amendment with the idea that we can talk some more about it as far as how we can maybe accomplish something like this, or just for me to better understand where you're coming from.
Perfect. Councilwoman Cook has offered this as a general amendment. Do I have an objection? Councilman Nakhan objects to her first amendment. Okay.
And that's to use the allocation schedule for the IS&T capital items on page 305.
Yes, ma'am. All right,
Right.
you want to go?
I'm going to let Mr. Lazard have the floor.
Okay. Councilman Lazard, you have the floor.
I'll let Nanette finish her amendments.
Okay.
Yeah.
Councilwoman Cook, you want to come back?
Have another one, which is basically the proposed capital budget, because one of the things that, and we talked about this with the ARPA, one of the things that concerns me is just some of the projects, the lack of a plan. And there may be a plan, and I apologize if I'm stepping on anybody's toes, but the lack of information that we've received. And on this particular one, as far as the urban asphalt overlays, I'm on page 288 in the budget book, line items 59, 60, 61. We have lots of money proposed, and I guess, I know Ms. Aber and I, and we've talked about this, looking for a list of the overlay projects, and I know there's a plan. I know there's, from what I understand, there's a rating plan, and there's a very long list. I respect that. But I guess when we're putting all this money to, I'd like to see basically, and I guess this is kind of a request for information as well, where are we on the current list of overlays in terms of what money do we have currently to moving forward with the overlays that we have, apparently the long list, and what is the plan for some of these?
Do you want to go ahead and identify the number on page 288?
Line number 59, line number 60, line number 61, line number, well, actually, I'll just list them all, because I have a question on all of them in terms of, and really, all this is an amendment to maybe zero out, but only because we're looking for information. And all you got to do is, if there's a plan on where we're doing with all this money, if we get that information, we put the money back in before final. I just find we have, like I said, a lot of money out there in terms of these projects, and I don't think, like we discussed with ARPA, none of them are bad projects. I like where we're going with all the drainage, with everything, with the overlays, which is something that we need. I guess it just, I'm very nervous about the amount of money we're budgeting and the amount of money we're projecting coming in, and I would just feel, and this is just me, feel more comfortable if we were a little more conservative with some of these numbers, and not to say we can't do these projects, we leave them. And if we have the big windfall, then yes, we move forward with them. But at this point, and if there's design that has to happen, kind of like we did before, which if it's already happened, then, that money's put there for that purpose as well. So it's not saying that we're not going to do them, but I'm not comfortable with the way that we're doing it in terms of the amount of money that's being put out there. And so I don't know if you want to speak to.
Well, I thought there was a question, but I'm not sure what it is.
Well, it was
So
about-
I was
it was
prepared
about
to
a
respond to a
paragraph ago,
question,
yeah.
but I'm not sure where we are. But we won't do a project if there's no funding, so that is no problem.
So I want to be clear, I understood what you asked for. That was item 59, 60, and 61.
69, 70, 77, 78, and 206.
Okay, let's do that again, because if we're going to make a journal entry, we have to make it right.
Okay, 59, 60, 61, 69, 70, 77, 78, and 206, a bond project. And I'm not opposed to bond projects, that's not where I'm going either.
Okay, and what column are you proposing to zero out?
Well, all the proposed amounts to basically zero them out.
Okay, so in the proposed columns for the numbers that you cited, you're proposing to zero those out. So in the ones that aren't bond projects, of course, is pay-as-you-go, and that's cash. The bond project is, of course, bonds that we would not borrow.
Right, right. And again, with the understanding that if there is a project, if the urban asphalt overlay reconstruction to the tune of $2.5 million, if we have a plan to implement that money and we know what roads we're doing already, then it's back in. I mean, I don't want to hold up those projects. I want them to happen, but, okay, I'm going back to the question that you're waiting for, sorry.
I'm waiting for the question.
So I guess, Councilwoman Cook, are you talking about the current road overlay projects?
That
You want a
was my
list of
first-
those?
That was my first question. I want the list of those, yeah, just the current overlay projects.
So we have a full list.
Right.
And we have an interactive map. We frequently refer your constituents and you all to them when they ask about it.
Right.
We have a rating system. It's pretty thorough. We do have a very long list of needs. And be happy to go over the list with you anytime other than at this very moment, because I don't happen to have the list.
Right, and if you could give me, the amount of
Well,
money
we
that's...
wouldn't, so the
that we have-
Public Works guys don't propose these numbers without having, knowledge of what's needed. They propose it based on what they know is needed, and they propose it based on an anticipation of what they don't know is needed. So, Joseph, how many emails a day do we get about, is my road being overlaid?
Several.
From me, like
5?
50.
That's pretty low.
Yeah, same here.
So I'm not really sure what the question is, but is there a need? I would say yes. Is there a project list? Absolutely. Is there unknowns? 100%. The delay, perhaps what you're seeing is that these projects are bid. The bid process for in itself takes a while. They are bid in, large chunks. And then the contractors have the ability, they've got so much time to do the project. They might bid on 50 streets that they're going to be overlaying. And they have so much time to get those 50 streets done. And they, based on their deployment schedule, choose which streets in what order. So there is a list. It's very comprehensive. It's very long. The needs are great. The funding is real. The needs are real. So, but if you wish to zero them out, that's just going to delay everything. But, we'll be happy to continue to work with you to restore the funding.
I'd love to sit with you then and look at all these before the final, just because I don't want to zero them out if it's needed. You're telling me it's needed, I guess on all of these, like, that's not the overlay only, but drainage improvement in the city, 200,000, is that, we put a bunch of money into drainage already, so I'm not sure what, and then coolie maintenance, 100,000, I thought we had already put money into that, and so is this just an additional we need? We need all the money we can get, I realize that. I guess coolie maintenance, do we have a plan?
Yes.
Okay. What? And I'm sorry, I must be snoozing. I have not heard it.
No, not at all. I'd be happy to
Okay.
sit down with you and pour over this with our directors.
And I know y'all, look.
I'm unable to do that
No,
at this
and
moment.
please know that I know y'all are working, ferociously on all these projects. I get it. I'm not, doubting that. I guess when I see something like that kind of generic, I'm just, okay, where is it? So
No, they definitely have projects that they're working on and that this funding is proposed for. And, we can absolutely do that.
And I guess, yeah.
So it sounds like
They
the
haven't-
follow-up is a meeting
Sounds
with
like we're having
you
a
to
meeting.
discuss
Yeah.
specific line items
Okay.
with the budget and what's left over at this point, right?
Right. So I don't even know do I need an amendment on that? Should I just have a follow-up for
You
information?
can always offer that as a general amendment and then remove it.
Okay.
But
I'll do
it
that.
sounds
I'll
like
offer
you
it as a
just need
general amendment.
information. Okay. And so, Councilwoman Cook is offering up a general amendment, request administration, restore
Yeah, just-
funding,
Okay.
come back with named projects to the council. I guess I'm reading this, I'm not understanding what your general amendment is.
What are you making a general amendment for?
It is just because I want to zero out all of these items,
Okay.
just
gotcha.
because for lack of specificity on my
Okay.
part. Just
To
to
get more details
information.
of the
More information,
projects.
And it sounds like
Okay.
they have it, so we'll probably get rid of it, but just until then, we'll go with that.
And it's
Okay,
a
and
separate
then-
amendment because Andy objected.
That's
Okay,
right.
thank you.
That's right. And just so the council members know, I've made a request to administration, and they're going to, at the next budget meeting, going to be providing an update on the emergency drainage and funding that we just approved in our emergency meeting a while back. So we will get an update on those specific projects as well. So we'll be having that come up, I think, next meeting after.
Why would the bonds be included on this list?
Because we're going to be in possibly some debt if we don't raise the revenue, and so I guess my concern is, do we need to bond out anymore and give us more debt? I just,
Obviously we do, and now's the time to get the bonds with the interest rates they are.
Hold on,
So
Council,
we need
let
to we need to get this money in order to be able to move forward with these
well, and I'm not
detention,
opposed,
so.
I'm not opposed to getting it there if there's a project attached.
Correct, and
She's
again,
gonna
like
give it
Ms.
back.
Toop said, if
Yeah.
it sits there for 3 years and we're not using that money, it goes back. So
Mm-hmm.
now's not the time to not get the bonds. Now's the time to get the bonds, to have that money as we needed to move
And
forward
I-
with
I'm-
drainage.
And I said from the beginning, I'm not opposed to bonds. I just needed more
So you
clarification.
do want to include that on your list then
Yes,
still?
yes.
Okay, all right.
Okay,
Okay, I'm going to relinquish the floor.
okay. You still have three other items. Do you want to just go through those?
I saw his name. I don't know if you wanted to.
No, he's yielding to you, and so you can
Okay.
finish the list.
Okay, in the same spirit of causing a problem and being a problem child, the next three are very similar. This amendment is proposed budget for bond finance park projects. Again, just looking for, and I know we've talked about the plan to some extent, but again, I see $2.5 million at Brown Park, $2.5 million at Moore Park, and the walking, biking trail for $1 million. Just some more information on that. So I would also like to do the same thing, and that's on page 292. I'm going to meet with Sid. Sid, are you free next week?
I'll make myself free.
I'm sorry, I'm going to be a pest next week. But same issue with those three things. If we would, I'd like to offer an amendment to zero out, and Mr. Nakhan, go ahead, you're up.
Could you go to the specific number
I'm
for
sorry.
us?
Yes, it's on page 292, line number 227, 228, and 232.
In what column?
They're all bonds. Let me see.
The proposed,
It would be the proposed amount.
22.
Sorry, yes. The proposed amount of $1,025,000, both of them, and then it's a total of $6,000, and, $6 million, and basically zero that out. Pending information. Is that good?
Yep, you good,
Okay.
V?
V?
All right, and then Councilman Nakhan offered an objection to the three of them. All right.
Thank you for all your support. I think this is going to be tremendous, and I'm excited about the opportunity.
Thank you. Cue the exit music. Thank you very much. All right, moving on to the next item. We are moving on to Fire and Police Civil Service. Do we have someone? Oh, there's Adam, okay. As Adam's coming up, Lori, do you have any opening remarks and comments for Adam?
No, ma'am. There's no changes in the personnel strength.
All right, so there's no changes. We're starting on 2:30, but Adam, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Good morning, Adam Marcantel, Civil Service Director. Don't have anything to add, much like my budget is a relatively small budget. Fire and Police Civil Service Board and their staff exist as a separate entity, but I'm happy to provide that sort of directorial and budgetary support to them, so I can answer questions you may have about their budgets.
Thank you so much. Appreciate what you do. All right, guys, we're on 2:30. 2:30. Not seeing any questions on 2:30. There's no capital. So we're going to move to the Manning table at 344 Manning table. You don't want any capital dollars?
They did not request capital dollars. If you just want to throw us some, absolutely, I'm sure they'll take it, but I don't think so.
344, any questions on 344?
They actually do that, some in ARPA.
345. Any questions? Not seeing any public comments. All right. Anything you'd like to add?
I do not. Thank y'all very much.
Thank you, sir.
We enjoy
Appreciate it.
making your hearings easy for us. Thank y'all.
Thanks, Adam. Appreciate you. All right. Moving on to the Cajun Dome. Cajun Dome, come on down. Lori, as Pam DeVille's coming up, do you have any opening remarks or comments?
No, there's no personnel in the Cajun Dome.
Okay. Council members, we're going to go to page 132 for the Cajun Dome for operating expenses. Pam, thank you for coming. Do you have anything that you would like to add opening remarks?
No, Madam Chairman, I don't. I'm just so grateful to still be here.
Yeah. Yep. Thank you all for everything you've done the last year. I know you guys, and I'm sure I'm probably taking the mayor's thunder of how much he appreciates you guys opening your doors and helping with COVID relief and testing. So thank you.
Our pleasure.
And this is one item down towards 3/4 of the page. You'll see external appropriation Cajun Dome.
132.
Just one line item.
I'm not seeing any questions. Moving on to 5-year capital, 289.
And just one line item on 289, and it's number 95.
Not seeing any questions. Let's go to 2022 capital, 304, please. 304. Not seeing any questions. There's no manning tables. Do we have any public comment?
No, ma'am.
All right. Pam, any final words? Any exciting concerts coming up?
Yes, but the current situation that we face now is all the events that we've been adding for the last 3 months are now starting to either reschedule or cancel. So we're just keeping our fingers crossed that we'll get through this. I do want to mention that the state has been very generous to the Cajun Dome, and I don't know if you guys have seen the news releases, but for their 2020 and 2021, thanks to Paige Cortez and the Acadiana delegation, we received $500,000 for our boiler replacement. We got a new generator, $400,000. We got Cajun Dome HVAC pneumonic system renovations and replacement for $200,000. We got a general fund bequest, if you will, of $250,000 because the capital projects we did as a partnership and had to put money up on each one of those partnerships. So since we had no money, they helped us there. And then this year's budget, they put our Cajun Dome Convention Center enhancement for the HVAC ventilation and indoor quality planning and construction, $542,000. Convention Center elevator, which we desperately needed because the only way to get up to the convention center for the general public or users prior to that was an escalator, which was not very good for anyone that was elderly or needed assistance. We're also getting passenger and freight elevator control replacements. All the elevators in the Cajun Dome are 33 years old. So we're getting to end of life. So rather than replace the elevators, we got new systems to run them. And a security fence for the Cajun Dome and Convention Center, almost $800,000. So between all those projects, the state came up with $3.5 million. And that's been a huge help to us. So I really needed to acknowledge them. But thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. I do have a couple of council members buzzed in. Councilman Lazard, you have the floor.
Pam, I'm sure that $7.5 million is going to come in handy as well, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
What is LCG's subsidy? I might have missed it, to the Cajun Dome this year?
500.
It's remaining at 500, which was what we allocated last year?
500 in O&M, and then there's 100 in capital.
And we use those dollars to incentivize promoters to bring shows to the Cajun Dome. So that's It's a huge help. That's the only way we could compete with the rest of the ASM people in the state of Louisiana.
So the $7.5 billion that we're getting from the lost, whatever they call it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Shelter
that's
fees.
unrestricted, right?
It is restricted.
It is restricted?
Yes, sir.
What is it, you know what it's restricted to?
Yes, sir. We got funding for personnel payroll cost, fringe benefits, which is retirement and hospitalization, supplies, contracts, which are payments to independent contractors, utilities, maintenance cost, state and local taxes and fees, insurance payments, advertising, capital expenditures to the production of theatrical and live performing arts productions. And adding each of those up, we get to our 7.1 million. You had to be very, specific. I think, the city had to file the same thing for the Hyman Center. You had to be very specific on what they were willing to reimburse us for. They let us go back to 2019 in terms of coming up with our expenses and the baseline for the grant. And at that point, we had gone down from 65 employees to 47. Currently, we're at 14. So we will be able to reimburse ourselves for a lot of the expenses because all our people were furloughed. So we paid for a lot of their insurance and retirement and stuff like that during the furlough. And as you all know, we virtually had no income. So, yeah, they're also telling us that when this is all over with, any money we have left that we did not allocate to the specific areas that they're giving us money for, we have to send them the balance back. And everyone runs the risk of being audited.
Sure.
So,
Well,
as much as I'd like to say I have great ideas for using that money, I'm kind of,
yeah, but it seems to cover all the bases almost.
yeah, well, yes, it will help us out tremendously.
Yeah, that's good.
Councilwoman Cook, you have the floor.
I just have one very important short question. Is Lauren Daigle coming back?
Yes. As a matter of fact, while I was
I have
sitting in
tickets and
I was
wondering,
sitting in the back.
should I get rid of them? Okay.
They're asking for a new contract because the company that's promoting it has changed since she was on sale the first time, so
Okay.
yes.
So she's coming.
Well, as of right now, the concerts are rescheduled in September and October. It really depends on how many people in the city of Lafayette and the parish get vaccinated.
There you go, good plug. All right. Okay, that's all I needed. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank you. Councilman Lewis, you have the floor.
Yes, my question is, how that works, for instance, the other domes, for instance, in New Orleans, they used to be called the Superdome, now it's Mercedes. Is there, I'm sure that's a partnership. Have you guys looked at some type of partnership with other vendors? For instance, in Baton Rouge, they have what they call Raising Cane Rec Center and what have you, and maybe some vendor might want to, I don't know, put their name on there? I mean,
Occasionally, well, when the building first opened, yes, we pursued very strongly trying to get a naming rights.
Yeah, that was how many years ago?
33.
Okay, let's
Yeah.
talk about now.
Yeah. Right now, the Acadiana is branded in the United States. There's no other building in the United States named the Acadiana. There have been a lot of Pepsi centers. There have been a lot of Coke centers. There have been a lot of AT&T centers. So we actually have a plan in place right now to speak to somebody. I'd rather not put it out in public. But yes, there's an opportunity that's been presented to us, and we're going to pursue it.
Okay, so I'm just saying, so you guys looking at something like that, okay? So again,
But we're not going to give up Acadiana. It will be
no,
Acadiana.
no, hold on right there. Okay, you said they were branded, correct?
We are.
Branded, but now the Superdome was branded as well?
Mercedes-Benz Superdome.
But before Mercedes, it was Superdome, correct?
Oh, it was Superdome
Okay, so the
before.
name changed now to Mercedes, correct? So what you're telling me is that, what I'm hearing, is that you still want to leave Cajun name on there?
Yes,
Cajun
sir.
Dome, that's
Yes,
what
sir.
you're saying?
Yes, sir.
I just want to make sure it's perfectly clear.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, when it gets to the $500,000 that we giving also maybe an additional $100,000?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, I'm asking this to you, that we consider ourselves one, all in Lafayette, so we're in Lafayette Parish. My question is the parish giving something, donating some money?
They
So-
used to years ago.
They used to?
Yep.
So
And
just
it's been cut,
Lafayette, so I
cut,
just want to
cut,
make it
cut.
perfectly clear, only Lafayette is, the citizens of Lafayette is given out of the general fund about $600,000.
Yes, sir.
That's, I'm understanding correctly.
It's technically 500 and then 100 out of 401, but that's okay. Same thing. Same concept. Yeah, the city of Lafayette.
City of Lafayette, but everyone uses it, not just the citizens of Lafayette.
Yes,
Just
sir.
want you to make sure my colleagues understand that.
Yes, sir.
But on this, they don't use it for free. They do pay to get in.
Yes, sir.
They do pay, but then again, we given out of the general fund
And the
$600,000.
city of Lafayette receives a benefit of about $45 million a year in taxes and generated income for this area. So yes, I think the investment
I
you
mean,
put up
we-
is well represented in what we return to the
Understand that
community.
as far as Festival
Yeah.
International, Acadiana, and all that, we all getting rebates out of, not say rebate, we all getting something out of it also, not just the Cajun Dawn. Just want to make
Correct.
sure that's clear.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Is there a deeper question?
Nope.
Okay.
Anything what?
A deeper question that you wanted answered?
No, I think the
No,
point,
I'll be asking more questions if I need be. I just want to make sure my points were well
Yes,
taken
sir.
and that you answer my question.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
thank you, sir. Councilman Lazar, do you have the floor?
Hey, Nanette. Talking about Lauren Daigle.
And Kane Brown and KISS.
Kiss.
I don't want your tickets. Actually, I was going to advocate for Corinne Hawthorne.
Oh, trust me, you're not alone.
Do we have any contacts with her promoters or management company, or?
The way it
make an
works,
effort for-
the Cajun Dome could not possibly afford to pay an artist to come in and play, so we have to work through promoters. And we've got 3 different promoters that we go to, and I regularly make calls and put lists in their minds and send press releases. And, yeah, we're constantly trying to get hot artists to come in the market. But we are one company, ASM Global, which is formerly SMG, is managing every other venue in the state of Louisiana. So when they put a request in, they have a little bit more meat behind them.
Let's do what we can to try to get Corinne Hawthorne.
Yes, sir.
All
Promise.
right. Any comments from the public? All right, and I think you gave your final remarks?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, well, perfect. Anything
you.
else? Thank you, Pam.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for hanging in there.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Buy your tickets, people. Buy your tickets. All right. Announcements. Everyone is invited to a public hearing for the citizen input on the budget for any matter related to the budget, which will be held on Tuesday, August 17th at 5:15 p.m. during the special joint council meeting. The next departmental reviews are scheduled for August 12th at 9 a.m. to hear the following departments: county agent, corridor, adult correction, parks and rec, and the parish parks, parish and volunteer fire departments, register of voters, assessors, justice of the peace and constables, health unit, juvenile detention, animal control, library, district court, and a district attorney. And with that, I adjourn the meeting. Thank you all for coming. Have a good day.